Gangs of London has everything a great show needs. It has vengeance, amazing action scenes, and of course some pretty interesting gangsters. The crime thriller immediately became a fan favorite when it was released on Sky Atlantic on April 23rd. As the name suggests, the action takes place in London, and this show hides lots of shocking facts in its story. So, is Gangs of London based on a real story? Where did the creators take inspiration from? Keep watching to find out.
Was taken from us on the streets of London.
The show features the story about gangs in London, but let's get into more details, shall we? This show really features the Wallace family, as they are the most dominant and influential crime organizations in London. The point where the head of Wallace's gang is killed is where the show actually starts. His son, Joe Cole, needs to clean this mess up and find out who's his father's murderer. But in order to do this, he needs to face some pretty dangerous fellas. The 10-part series was created by director Gareth Evans, The Raid 2011, alongside creative partner Matt Flannery. Talking to Sky News, Evans revealed some quite interesting facts. For instance, he said that he went undercover with real police officers to work on the more exquisite aspects of the show. It was interesting tidbits and facts about the city and how things happen. He said, "It was good to understand how it operates, that there are people that you're never ever going to know, and that functions in our show." On the question of what he learned of real-life gangs, Evans told Sky News that there's a board of investors somewhere, an elite group that they never get to put faces to. And it's knowing they're right at the top then and working its way down the hierarchy of subdivisions and subdivisions and subdivisions. Incredibly wealthy people all the way down to the kids on the street. Let's be real here. While the creators took some inspiration from real-life happenings, most of the show is pure fiction, and we can't be mad about it since it's simply amazing. Most of the Gangs of London's realistic scenes came from the thought of the show's creators, not from real-life events. What might surprise you is that Gangs of London is somewhat based on a really old PlayStation game with the same name. So, back when the creators were producing the show, Evans took the video game rights from Sony. According to Metro, the 2006 game wasn't really a success. The newspaper also stated that it holds a score of only 52 on Metacritic, with reviews ranging from it being simply average to simply awful. Evans' first idea was to adapt Gangs of London into a film franchise, but he changed his mind. In the same interview with Sky News, he said that one of the things he loved about London is that you can step onto any street and hear 10 to 15 different languages all spoken at once. According to him, that's really unique, and it's such an interesting characteristic of the city. When asked why he chose to do a TV show instead of a movie franchise, said that this should be a TV show because you can afford to go off and detour for 10 to 15 minutes and spend time with other characters and learn about them in more detail. Do you guys think he made the right decision? Let us know.
Sean Wallace must...
If you're really obsessed with Gangs of London, you're probably familiar with Peaky Blinders, and some lead actors in Gangs of London were most definitely familiar to you. The unpredictable, rough Sean Wallace is played by London actor Joe Cole, who played John Michael Shelby in Blinders. And Sean's partner Jack is played by Emmett J. Scanlon, who all of us remember as Billy Grade. There's also Michelle Fairley, Catelyn Stark in Games of Thrones, and Lucien Samadi, Black Earth Rising. The fact that London is one of the most corrupted capitals in the world is not a surprise at all. Gang life in London is nothing unusual, but the gangsters from the past are far more intriguing than those nowadays. And we're talking about those from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Probably one of the most famous ones are the Kray twins, who ruled the street of southeast London during the 50s and 60s. However, London was filled with gangsters throughout history. The number of gangsters in this city is simply unbelievable. Despite being dead for a long time, the stories about these gangsters managed to be alive and will never be forgotten. While they were involved in the killing, major crimes, and a lot of bad things, we can't help but feel fascinated about them. Ronnie and Reggie Kray, born in 1933, are possibly the most infamous of London's gangster records. The twins threatened London in the 50s and 60s with their gang, The Firm. Murder, robbery, arson, protection rackets, assaults are the things the twins were involved in. Their criminal life didn't really affect their lifestyle, as the pair lived a lavish life, as they were West End nightclub owners, often hanging out with politicians and celebrities of that time. What's interesting is the fact that the Kray twins were also one of the last people to be kept prisoner at the Tower of London. They were convicted in 1969 and each convicted to life imprisonment. Ronnie was in Broadmoor Hospital until he died on March 17, 1995 from a heart attack. Reggie was freed from prison on compassionate grounds in August 2000 and died from bladder cancer almost 9 weeks later. Well, they'll certainly be remembered. Now here's an interesting fact about gangs in London. Some of them are motivated by religion, as is the case with Muslim Patrol. Nevertheless, profits arising from drugs and other criminal activity is a significant motivator for many gangs.
I like to have a bit of family life now, I intend to get married in the near future. I did before this.
The famous star Sob Derisu talked in an interview with Shortlist about all the behind-the-scenes details, and he shared many interesting things. For instance, he said that when he turned up for his fight test, he had no idea what one was either. And according to him, it wasn't a case of here's a bear, wrestle it, and see if you can fight. They showed him a bit of choreography and asked him to repeat it to see if he could take direction. Based on his role, the test was successful. Both Jude Poyer, the fight choreographer, and Chris Webb, who he worked with to design the action, believed in the actor's ability, which according to him, gave him more confidence to go on set and do the wonderful sequences that they had created. In the same interview with Shortlist, the actor said that the atmosphere on set when they were filming the fight scenes was always great and really jovial. What might surprise you is the fact that Gareth edits the fight scene they were shooting according to Derisu. Evans worked in a way that the stunt coordinator and stuntman well before pre-production started to create a pre-visual and what the fight is gonna look like. As Derisu said, he knows precisely how he's going to cover it. He shoots each moment of coverage in order, and then, whilst they're setting up the next shot, he'll splice it together in a very rough but accurate version of what the fight scene is going to look like. So it's really heartening for everybody on set to be able to see how far we've come and how far we've got left to shoot. In the first episode, we saw the murder of Finn Wallace, a man who for 20 years had been the most influential criminal in London. And as we said, his son, Sean, is determined to find out who killed his father. Evans and Flannery spent time researching with former undercover police officers and crime journalists to get inspired for the storylines. We went down the rabbit hole, definitely, said Evans. As he said, they wanted to get a sense of what goes on behind the closed doors. He further explained that it was some kind of case of how do we strip away the sort of exotic eye-level view of London that people would have. Part of that involved going behind closed doors and finding a way to translate that journey into the show.
And turn that way, then profile, go bang, bang.
So guys, what's your favorite thing about Gangs of London? What would you like the show to include in the further episodes? Tell us in the comment section below. If you enjoyed our video, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you never miss any of our videos in the future. As always, thanks for watching.